Serious, what are the things your parents have done to you which you wouldn't do to your child? My ex-stepdad had no issues punishing me and my brother in questionable ways. I have a scar on my back from when he took a branch that was on fire from our fire pit and would whack the hell out of me with it. One time he also pinned me down and would let my sister repeatedly punch me in the nose because I apparently had upset her. I remember one time our deep freeze got left open and all the meat thawed, and he would whip me and my brother until one of us confessed. Turns out it was him after all during a drunk night and he wanted something to eat. Control everything. I don't necessarily have a helicopter mom, but she's definitely controlling. I'm 20 years old and she cried and told me I was being selfish when I told her I wanted my SSC and my birth certificate when I moved a few states away. I don't know how to file my own taxes. I never did anything. I would have preferred her tell me more things and help me do things rather than do it all herself and keep me out of the loop. Dear parents, your child's social security card and birth certificate is not a participation award for being a parent. They are documents required for adulting. It doesn't feel like it should need to be said, but apparently that's a novel concept. I had to literally steal my SSC from my mom's closet so I could get a job when I was 18 because she wouldn't give it to me. When she found out I was working, she complained a whole bunch, but I convinced her to let me keep going. After I left my job at Subway after 4.5 months, I made roughly $1,000 and she took all of it, literally snatched the money from my fingers and put it into a bank account that I'm still not allowed to touch. A year later, if stuff like this keeps happening, I honestly don't know how I'm gonna survive as an adult, and that terrifies me. If you're 18, that is definitely theft and not legal. Doesn't sound legal either if they're a 16 years old working part-time in a fast food, but obligatory. I'm not a lawyer. Edit, because some people are getting confused. I meant I don't think it's legal either if you're minor for your parents to take the money you earned. Not 16 isn't a legal age to be working in a fast food. Me too. I wasn't allowed to wear jeans when I was a child. When I told them I wanted to start wearing suit jackets, they only bought me ones that were black, and the only navy one they bought me, they never let me wear in throughout because it was too blue. It got to the point where I didn't dare ask for any clothes I wanted. I remember seeing waistcoats and wanting one real bad, but it would be years before I wore a waistcoat/vest, and even then I was denied one because it had an artistic lining. It's really bad and parents should not do it, especially with clothes. Children can know style and develop tastes as young as 3 years old. This right here. My mom accused me of losing my SSC when I asked her for it, saying that she gave it to me years ago. But to be honest, before I filed for a replacement card, I didn't even know what they looked like. Neither of my siblings did either. I don't know how to file my own taxes, know next to nothing about finances, and that's a fault on her end for not teaching me, as well as my high school/college's fault for not having a class I could take on it, and also just generally being controlling. If my dad found out I had a crush on a girl, he'd tease me and make me feel embarrassed about it. Made me feel like I could never go to him for advice on girls. My parents did this to the point I struggled to talk to girls, even though I'm ace. I forgot what ace meant, and I thought you were just calling yourself a really badass person confidently for a second. Knock. Please always knock. Also, don't just knock while you're in the midst of opening the door. That doesn't count. Knock, wait for a response, then come in. Not only for when you're doing things you don't want your parents to do, but also just allows the kid to feel a lot more private in their room, knowing you respect that boundary. Precisely. Dad walked in on me the other day without knocking. Guess who was shirtless? His daughter. Make fun of me in front of company. It wasn't malicious, just thoughtless. Now my mom always complains that I don't tell her anything. I literally told her once, this is why I don't tell you things, and it was like she'd never considered that I might not want everyone and their brother to know my personal business. I hate when my mom gossips about my private life to literally everyone, and then she gets upset when I won't tell her things, like bawling, extremely heartbroken kind of upset. She can act pretty entitled to my emotions and information about me without actually earning it. It's so draining. My mom faked cancer for 2 years when I was in high school. Even shaved her head and everything. Haven't spoke to her in 12 years. She disgusts me. I'm sorry you had to go through all of that. But what was the reason for faking a deadly disease for 2 years? Edit grammar. People with cancer get big props online and in public in some cases. People are more forgiving/friendly if they think you might die soon, and a woman with a bald head due to chemo strikes a chord with everyone. If you're stuck in what you see as a boring life of keeping your kids alive and the house cleaned for 20 years, sometimes you crave something to make you interesting to strangers again. It's a normal desire, especially as your kids get ready to leave home, but some people don't know the diff between positive and negative attention. My parents couldn't talk to each other after they got divorced, so they used me as a message board. Tell you mother, you tell your father. Fucking grow up and talk to each other. My parents split up around 28 or 29 years ago and still won't talk to each other. I'm dreading the day when me or a sibling gets married or something where they are both there. I'll spend the entire time waiting for them to have an argument about something. Edit. 18 or 19 years ago. Had to deal with this when I got married. Parents were standoffish and awkward the whole time. Thank God my in-laws are amazing people who helped ease the tension and keep them separate. My dad yelled at me for complaining about my broken arm. I didn't know it was broken at the time, and he just screamed at me to stop whining about the pain. I was 10 at the time. Still mad about that. I would never be so short-tempered with my kids and actually listen to them when they say something is wrong. My mother rolled her eyes and said kids fall all the time. You're fine. Go back outside. After falling from a 6-foot bunk bed and acquiring a very broken and very swollen arm, I was crying from pain, and that was her response. This was in 2003. She dragged me to the hospital after my father yelled at her too, telling me to quiet down because I was in the backseat clutching my arm and crying from, I don't know, pain. That was one of the pinnacle moments that solidified my very real belief that my mother hated me. Dad is no better. Screamed at me that my anxiety was caused by something in your subconscious and to figure it out because my panic attacks, caused by him, annoyed him. Denied me medical treatment for an endocrine disorder I have because he hated the state my specialist was in. No contact as we speak. When I was 3 I slammed my door. They took the door off the hinges and refused to ever put it back. We had to move to a different house before I got a door over a decade later, and I had to move out before I had a door with a lock. I would never destroy my kids' privacy like that. Wow, that is so extreme for such a minor ordeal. My mom would threaten to call the police if I slammed the door because she thought it was violent. Ironically, she once shoved me into a wall after I slammed my bedroom door. Mayo. It seems like a lot of parents overreact to things that should only be mildly upsetting. Thankfully we lived in a small rental apartment, so she couldn't just remove my door, though I probably would have got my dad to stop her if she tried. Refusing to accept that my child has feelings. Every fucking time I'm criticized for playing games and enjoying my time. You fell down because of that phone lab. Always play. No study man. Asian parents. My parents seem to enjoy pulling similar stunts whenever I lash out because I'm mad. It's always must be those damn games you play. My awful ass parents. Sharing my grade/successes with my siblings. I feel like it can be really disheartening and discouraging for the one that doesn't perform as well. My father does this. I fucking hate it. All it does is make me feel like the lesser child. I was really proud of myself this year. Got myself out of a depressive loop and got my grades way up in the span of about a month. I showed my dad my grades and he said I should be ashamed because they weren't as good as my sisters. Now my depression has almost gotten as bad as it was before. Edit. Thanks you guys. This really means a lot to me. Spank me with a wooden spoon until I'd give in to whatever they were asking. Never will I ever. Spanking never once made me reconsider or regret my behavior. It just made me more careful to hide it in the future and eventually made me great at fake crying and lying to my parents in general. and since it was the go-to punishment for everything, the punishment was never proportionate to the misdeed. All indiscretions were punished the same, so they all seemed equally bad, which is a shit lesson to teach. It's 100% just adults relieving their anger in a physical manner, but instead of punching a pillow or going for a jog, they hit the thing that they think is causing the anger. No better than kicking a dog. Not explaining to my 12-year-old daughter about woman period. My mum gave me a girl book and left it at that. No pads or emergency period pack. I'm still not entirely sure how I got pads at 13. I do remember still being embarrassed buying sanitary items at 16. Same. My mom gave me an American Girl book about puberty and left the rest of my education about women's health to the school system. I only recently learned discharge is normal and your body cleaning itself. Health class is a joke. Yeah, mine was just about organs and that sex led to babies. No one told me about first periods being brown or the dangers of seeping through cloths, sore boobs, cramps and breakouts. Thanks UK education system. Throw a full beer can at my head with remarkable accuracy, among other things. Dude, I was a boss at dodgeball as a kid from all the shit my grandmother used to throw at me. She once threw a plate full of spaghetti directly at my face at point blank range. Still managed to dodge it. Still had to clean it all up afterwards, though. This made me smile. When I was a kid my mom would throw her slippers at me and we'd literally sprint all over the house for full minutes at a time with me dodging and her picking up the missed slippers and throwing them again. In retrospect that might have been why I was so good at dodgeball as a kid too. Mine is pretty mild. My mom used to severely limit my media intake. I get where she was coming from, trying to protect me from sexual ideas and violence when I was young. The problem was that it limited my knowledge of literally everything. I had a hard time fitting in because of it. I remember leaving my friend's birthday sleepover because going to see the Titanic was part of the party. I still have never watched it. Being raised vegetarian certainly didn't help. I was always invited to my friends' houses for cookouts and always had explain that my mom won't let me eat anything. One time she grounded me for eating grapes at a friend's house, claiming it would spoil my dinner when in reality I was really just trying to be polite to the woman, who was trying extra hard to accommodate a snack for me. I feel like my life could have gone in a completely different direction if I had been able to explore ideas more, to consider different lifestyles, and be inspired from conflicts. IDK. My parents were really similar, minus the vegetarian part. I thought I just hated movies up until I was 14 because the only things I was allowed to watch were Barbie and My Little Pony DVDs. Let's see. Neglected me in a crib for days in the hot sun to the point where I had maggots in my diapers. Sent me to school with scratches and bruises. Hit me directly in the head with things. Threatened to kill me. Treat me like a complete failure in my teen years without questioning why. Oh, and when I got taken away and put in a foster home, foster mom molested me. I'm not having kids, but that's because I'm unstable and tend to isolate. I'm sorry you had to go through this shit in life. Hope you are doing okay. Wishing your life becomes more stable and good people enrich it to drown out bad memories. Wishing you anything good you desire. Stop talking to them over a woman twice and let them forget I'm here for them and I love them. My dad was not a good dad. I remember when I was little after my parents got divorced, I would sit on our front steps with my little suitcase waiting for my dad because he'd tell me he was coming to get me. My mom would get a call from my dad making some excuses to why he couldn't come get me. She told me she would break down and cry because she was the one that had to tell me he wasn't coming, and she knew I'd be upset and likely cry. This happened a lot. I also remember when they made us start dialing area codes. I was probably 7. I didn't know, so I dialed a 7-digit number and it just gave me a busy signal. I tried to call him for months. I would sit there and cry because I wanted my dad to just be my dad, and I didn't know if he was even alive. Turns out he was alive. He just didn't care to give his son a call. Growing up without a dad sucks. My son will never experience that. I hug him and kiss him and tell him I love him all the time. Maybe too much, but I don't care. He's 5 and he'll be pushing me off him before long. I'd rather him be spoiled than go through what I went through. The end. Thanks for watching.